Recently we've shot a video masterclass on how I wrote tubes based on 7 years of my experience. In the comments to the video, I've been asked to show how I paint tubes based on my experience. So I've decided it is worth talking about, especially because recently I've discovered some new techniques I'd like to share. I would have never discovered these new tricks but for you, my dear viewers, who share your experience. I have been experimenting a lot in this field, based on what I've learned. I have even got a bit tired of constant experimenting. Every day I find something new I'd like to try, so I start restraining myself. Since experimenting is nice, of course, but I'd like to get a recipe optimal for my particular conditions. So let me share my optimal recipe with you today. A few more words before I start sharing the recipe. Until recently, I believed that newspaper tubes with printed letters are impossible to paint light colors, so I used to paint them either black or brown or some other dark colors. Quite a while ago, I tried painting them light. The tubes have been painted twice, but as you can see, newspaper print is still visible. At that moment I gave up the idea. However, just recently I've concluded that a proper solution allows painting newspaper tubes light too. It is the recipe I'd like to share today. So, the recipe. I take 2 tablespoons of this white universal rubber paint. Then I add some colorant and mix the solution thoroughly. I don't measure the colorant by spoons. I can add half a bottle of blue colorant and half a bottle of green one, for example, in order to get turquoise color like this. At first I've dropped some colorant, then added some more, dependent on the shade of color I'd like to get. After which I add a cup of lacquer and 2 cups of water. I mix this resulting solution carefully and add about a tablespoon of liquid soap, shower gel or some other cleaning agent at hand. The latter is meant to prevent the tubes from sticking together, since the mixture is sticky enough. I will enclose a detailed recipe below the video. Now I'd like to note that the varnish is acrylic. The paint is universal rubber paint. Well, before I found this type of paint, I used to apply normal acrylic enamel for radiators. Now I'm using a rubber paint. These tubes have been made of newspaper and covered with the solution I'm talking about. When I was experimenting with this mixture for the first time, I sorted out the tubes with colorful print and left only the ones with more or less uniform printed letters. After the first layer, the print is still visible, while the second layer of coating makes them invisible. That's why I don't sort out the tubes anymore. Well, it was quite a discovery. The white paper I've purchased disappointed me, but at the same time I came across some high-quality newspaper. The paper is rather thin, so I've concluded some newspapers are still worth using, since I can get qualitative tubes of them. So, cover the tubes with our mixture for the first time. Rotate the tubes. Take care not to overflow the tubes. I'm a right-hander, so it is easier for me to turn the tubes over and paint them from the opposite side. After which I place the tubes onto a piece of paper and let them dry. In case I'm in a hurry and the number of tubes is not too large, I use a dryer. If I don't rush, or it is hot summer, or I have something other to engage myself, I leave them drying in the sun. I distribute the tubes from time to time to prevent them from sticking together. As a rule, the first layer causes no trouble, the tubes soak the paint and they are easy to divide. Once I've made the following mistake. I started spreading the second layer before the first layer got dried, which has made the tubes tousled. So I'd recommend drying the tubes. If you are pressed for time, you can do with the help of a dryer. Then, after having dried the tubes, I cover them with the second layer of the painting solution. The second layer makes the tubes behave a bit differently. They tend to stick together, even though the mixture contains some soap. Anyway, by constant distribution, especially if you use a dryer, you can easily solve the problem. To avoid a video lesson too long, I've already dried the tubes with the help of a dryer. So this is a portion of tubes coated with one layer of painted solution. Next to it is a ready portion painted twice. Let me show you how the tubes behave after the second layer of paint. The tubes, once coated, are much worse at soaking the solution, which makes them stick together. Here you can see the tubes painted twice. These tend to stick together. Anyway, you can solve the problem with the help of a heater, distributing the tubes and drying them with a flow of warm air. Be careful to avoid hot air, it makes the tubes stick together still more. Or you can leave the tubes in the sun, distributing them regularly, and they are getting dry gradually. I believe it is the white acrylic paint that covers the newspaper print invisible. Well, each of us uses different paints. That's why I highly recommend reading instructions by a manufacturer before applying the paint. Note such points as the period of time needed for the paint to dry. I believe the shorter the drying time is, the more convenient it is to work with the paint. Anyway, it's up to you to choose the optimal paint among the ones available in your area. I don't think it is my last experiment, but for the time being I'm quite happy with the current result. It is the first time I've managed to cover the newspaper print invisible. One more note. When you paint the tubes, don't use the whole volume of the solution you've got. Leave some portion just in case. There can appear white spots on the tubes in the points of bending, or if the tubes stick together and you try to divide them. So afterwards, you can paint these white spots with the remaining solution, very carefully with small points, just where necessary. So, 2 layers of our solution are quite enough to paint over the newspaper print. I will be thankful if you share your own recipes. Maybe you've got a better one. So far I've shared my favorite recipe for today. Good luck to all of you!